All right, I think we can start the session. Hello, everyone tuning in from wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being with us here today. It's been a long time since we've been here, a few months, so it is a pleasure to be back. We are the Porto Protocol Foundation, and I'll be happy to introduce our organization. But before, let me thank both Etienne, our partner at the International Vintage Master, and Christel Renaud for being with us here today. This is our second not climate talk, I'm sorry. This is our second science talk. Climate talks, we've been doing them for 5 years and we've done more than 50. But science talk is one of our projects that we have launched in order to try to connect or to build a bridge between science and wine production. And in fact, Etienne is one of the people that we know that is able to translate research and academic language, so to speak, in the most practical fashion. So it is an honor to have him as a partner in this venture of ours, in bringing scientists from all over the world, share what research is coming out that is useful for wine producers to adapt and mitigate the impact of climate change. But I started by introducing what these science talks are, but let me tell you what the Porto Protocol Foundation is. So we are a global movement, a global wine movement, with members from all over the world in the whole wine value chain that share what they are doing to address climate change. We welcome companies of any profile, any size. So if you want to start your journey or you are a pioneer, consider this an invitation to join us. And without further ado, Etienne, the stage is yours and I'll disappear for now. Thank you for being there.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Marta, and good afternoon or good evening to everyone. I think for us as academics, the opportunity here with the Porto Protocol and the foundation we have to host these science talks, it's an opportunity also as scientists to understand how we can integrate our studies and our results and understand also how we can scale them and help the industry to move forward as they are adapting and especially mitigating their practices towards climate change. And so following the successful first science talk with Professor Stefano Poni from Italy, we felt it was very important to have someone that can immediately come in and give us a better understanding about the environmental impact. We talk a lot about adaptation, and I think we understand all the different solutions that are available. But it's also very, very important that we look at our environmental impact on the environment, how we can reduce it through viticultural and enology practices. We know there's a lot of work already done on packaging and transport and distribution. So I'm very fortunate today to be joined by Christel Renaud, who is a fellow academic from our institution at the Ecole Supérieure des Agricultures in Angers in the Loire Valley. So Christel, thank you for joining us for this 45-minute talk, which will be a question and answering session. I can maybe quickly give a background about yourself before I ask you to introduce a little bit more of your interest in environmental assessments in viticulture. You studied the agricultural engineering program at the Ecole Supérieure des Agricultures, so one of the ones that was student and then became a permanent member of the institution. But for those who don't know, an agricultural engineer in France will be a 5-year program in agricultural sciences. So you graduated with a master's degree in agricultural sciences and then went to work in Hungary, in Nigeria, came back to France at the end of the 90s, where you worked for what is today known as the French Institute for Vine and Wine, where you worked in viticultural systems, nursery practices, before taking up a permanent position as a lecturer researcher at the institute where we both are working today in 2003. You were then the coordinator of the International Master Program in Viticulture and Enology, and then started to conduct your research in environmental sciences applied to viticulture, obtaining your PhD in 2015, supervising several PhD students, obviously conducting several research projects, And today you're also one of the key OIV members in the Sustain Group representing the French delegation. So Christel, maybe to open the discussion and give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself, can you maybe just tell us what drew you to this research area of environmental impacts, especially if we think about, today it's a very popular subject, and I think everyone understands the need to mitigate and to look at our practices through an environmental perspective. But back in the year 2000, there was very little study still looking at this topic. So maybe tell us about your journey into environmental assessments applied to viticulture.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you, to thank the Porto Protocol for the invitation, and thank you, Etienne, and thank you for the introduction. I want to greet all the people that are joining this talk. Yes, about the journey, my journey to environmental sciences for viticulture. Well, it has been a concern, a personal concern for me, the environmental question for very, very long. And as I was working previously on the viticulture practices, I heard about this specific method of life cycle assessment methodology that was developing more in the industry first and little by little in agriculture. And I was really keen on knowing what this could give to viticulture. And then that's why I proposed to my supervisors when I wanted to start my PhD thesis in 2010 to focus my work on exploring the potential of this environmental assessment method for assessing very in details the environmental impact of the viticulture practices in order to inform practice change with the objective of comprehensive to get comprehensive data on the environmental impact of the practices. So that's the very beginning of the work we did on this subject. At that time, it's true that life cycle assessment was very fewly used in the wine sector. It was a little, well, we could see some publications about the use of this method in agriculture and more general agriculture, but very few on the wine sector. We could find studies assessing the impact of one bottle of wine, a comprehensive assessment, but not detailed on the different viticultural practices and so on. So that's why we could develop a specific methodology to be able to assess very precisely pesticide use impacts, to be able to model the emissions of the different substances that are used in viticulture to the environment and so on. So maybe I won't develop too much right now, to maybe to leave you time to ask other questions. But maybe, I don't know if you want me to explain a little more what is life cycle assessment.
Yeah, I think that will be very, very interesting, Christel, because again, just quickly, if a good scientist normally asks a question 10 years ahead of its time. So it shows clearly that, yeah, in the year 2010, you were looking at this question of environmental assessment, which today is very common and everyone wants to answer. So it shows also the regionality and how you conducted your PhD. But I think it's very interesting if you can tell us in a very simple way, what is life cycle analysis? I've participated once or twice with yourself. I know it's a lot of data that needs to be collected for every part of the vineyard management. And I know you look also at the non-productive phase, so the first couple of years before the vineyard is productive. But can you tell us what is life cycle analysis? What will it measure? What will be the data that you will be collecting?
So first of all, maybe I should explain what is life cycle thinking. Life cycle thinking means you will assess all the impacts of the whole life cycle of a product. So it means you start from the extraction of the raw material from the mines, or if it's water, for example, from extraction of water and so on. All what is needed to build all the machinery, all the different inputs. Then you will assess the impacts of manufacturing, you will assess the impacts of transport, and the impacts of use of the product, and the end of life of the product, and also recycling if it's a circular a life cycle. So the idea of this is that we want to embed all the impacts of or to assess all the impacts that are embedded in the product. So for example, if we want to assess the impact of 1 kilogram of grapes, we will include all what is all the operations that are done in the vineyard, but also what has been needed or what has been used to conduct these operations, the inputs, the machinery, the fuels, and so on. And for each of these different elements, we will consider their life cycle. So the life cycle of the tractor, what was needed to build the tractor and transport and so on, and the same for the fertilizer and the pesticides and so on. So this idea of life cycle thinking is very important. It's the way we build all the inventory of all what enters the calculation of the impacts for life cycle assessment. This is also the thinking that is used for carbon footprint calculation, for example. So this is the first aspect that is very important to understand with life cycle assessment. And the other aspect is that it is multi-criteria. So this is the difference with carbon footprint or water footprint, for example. It means it gives results not only on the aspect of effects on climate change, like carbon footprint, for example, not only on the aspect of the use of water resource, but it will give information on, for example, energy use, for example, land use. This is more for resources, but also for impacts caused by pollutions. That's, for example, particulate matter formations, photochemical ozone formation. That's the what is produced by the oxidation of sorry, I have got the French name in in mind, the N2O, the oxidation by the light of the sun. So it gives pollution in the cities, for example. This fog that we can see is very irritating and so on. So, for example, eutrophication of water, what gives green algae, in the seas or in the ponds and so on. So all these different impacts are available in the results of life cycle assessment. And the interest of that is that if we try and improve or reduce the impact of our activity, we can monitor whether there is a moving of this pollution load from one impact to the other. For example, if I improve or I reduce the carbon footprint, I will see if the choices I made make the freshwater ecotoxicity increase, for example.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting and very important.
Yeah, and it comes back to the concepts also of these feedback loops, meaning that today, if we look at the concept of adaptation, often we can prioritize a certain adaptation practice, but it can lead to maladaptation on other areas. And what I've always enjoyed the discussion with you is what the life cycle analysis brings, bringing a much broader and a much completer picture actually of the impact that we can have on the environment by looking at other indicators that is in addition to the carbon footprint. So talking about maybe carbon footprint and maybe to get quickly to this question about solutions. We often look at the carbon footprint. You mentioned that you can do an analysis of a bottle of wine, and we know that the viticultural contribution will maybe be only 10 or 15% of that carbon footprint. And you just mentioned now that if we use the life cycle analysis, we can actually look a lot of these areas that are related to the impact on the environment. Can you maybe tell us about what are the most striking results that you have seen from your different research projects that you have conducted in different regions all over France, but also internationally, that are quite common and that are the most contributing practices towards the negative impact on the environment?
Okay. First of all, I can maybe complete what you said about the carbon footprint of viticulture. If we look at the different publications, we can see that it can be higher than 30%. It can be from 15 to 60% of the impact of a bottle of wine. It depends on the packaging, of course, because the bottle itself, the glass bottle, often represents half of the impact, specifically on the carbon impact. But if the bottle is lighter, if the work in the vineyard is heavier and yet there are a lot of operation, then it can take a greater importance in the impacts. So that's why it's quite interesting to focus on this aspect to try and improve it. So when making my first LCAs of viticulture, I was quite surprised with several informations that we could highlight with this work, and that I didn't suspect. It's first the high environmental load of trellis. Even after amortizing these impacts on 30 years, the average duration of life of the vineyard, this impact still represented more than 10% of the impact of 1 year of production. So that's already quite important. And also what we have been showing also in our work is a completely other aspect. Is concerns the pesticides. It's the huge difference of potential ecotoxicity impacts between the different active ingredients that could make a really huge difference between the scenarios, between the different ways of conducting the vineyards, between the wine growers, as the active substances can have a potential ecotoxicity varying from 1 to 5,000. And the wine growers don't know it when they choose their pesticides. Then another key aspect in the impacts of the and that's also in many scientific publications of other colleagues who work also on life cycle assessment of the vineyard is or the wine is the dominant place of gazole. That as in viticulture we have a lot of mechanical operations in the vineyard, and also the place of fertilization. In our region, we don't have irrigation, but some authors also highlighted the importance of irrigation in the impacts. And maybe to finish, what was also interesting in the work we conducted by comparing different types of viticulture. It was that the LCA results were not directly related to the fact that the nature of the vineyard is organic or conventional, but it was more related to the intensity of intervention by the grower in the vineyard. Do they come often with the tractor? Do they use very ecotoxic substances or not? Do they use a lot of fertilizer or not?
Mhm.
Yeah. And maybe if you,
Mhm.
if I can, the last thing that we have worked on more recently is the environmental assessment of active frost protection. And we didn't suspect, well, we had an idea that could be quite impacting, but we didn't suspect that the active frost protection methods could have a so huge impact, um, especially the ones with combustion. So, for example, when for one night of protection with candles candles that are made of paraffin from oil, you can double the impact of 1 year of production with only one night of protection. So this is a point that also has to be carefully looked at.
Yeah, and as you say, if you consider the last example that you have given, and you think about a spring frost event that took place in France in 2022, 2021, sorry, when we had 3 consecutive nights of frost and 3 consecutive nights of using candles, then due to climate change, the early onset of bud burst, then obviously that also creates a lot of challenges on how to maintain respectful environmental impact. Just to make sure if I understood correctly, when you were listing the main practices that were contributing largely to the impact on the environment, the first one you mentioned was trellising systems. Did I understood correctly?
Yes, it doesn't mean
So
it's the highest, but it
yeah.
was the one that surprised me first when I started my
Mm.
work on the subject. Yeah.
Yeah, so the poles, the wires, and everything that will be
Yes, yes.
implemented, and as you've mentioned, that is decided on at the start of plantation.
Yeah.
So maybe the question on pesticides, and you mentioned that growers are often unaware about the toxicity of the active products. How can we inform and educate much better the growers? Because obviously they are working with consultants in disease management, and they get advice like we get plant material advice from nurseries. How can we better inform the local growers about the active ingredients and the toxicity of the product?
Well, I think that's not easy
Mm.
to transmit the results from research to the field. That's why well. Um, Events like are organized now today are very important, I think, to be able to transmit. Um, we work also a lot with extension officers, with also cooperatives to work with them to make them aware of our results. Sorry, and so that they can transmit to the wine growers. Therefore, we also elaborated some tools that can make calculation of LCAs easier for actors of the wine sector, and also for facilitation of eco-design workshops with the wine growers, so that the extension officers or the technicians of the cooperatives can facilitate such discussions and transmission of the results, and showing them what are the different levels of eco-design. It means eco-design, it means designing their way of working with lower environmental impacts. Yeah.
Yeah, focusing specifically on the ecological sustainability of their vineyard design. You collect a substantial amount of data, and I think one of the advantages that you have as a scientist is that now over 20 years you have built up a very interesting database, allowing you to quickly run different simulations. How do you see maybe a more international collaboration in constructing greater understanding about different practices and making that database even more substantial? Do you see this opportunity for more international collaboration so that the information can be better understood locally?
Yes, yes, I think it would be very interesting, and that's in this sense we are starting to work with some German colleagues from Geisenheim, for example, to see how we could. Well, I just spoke about these workshops for wine growers, and to be clearer, I can maybe explain that we built a serious game that is including a lot of data from our research with different tools in the game, so that the wine growers can play together with a facilitator to try and improve an existing vineyard management for 1 year, and they have a lot of information in this serious game. And so the idea is now to propose to colleagues from other countries, if they want to, and that's what we are starting with Geisenheim, to develop the same game for their context. So collect data from German cases, for example, or can be in Spain, it can be in any wine growing country. And then with the local cases, the local wine growers, of course, can be more at ease to think and discuss about what can be improved in their context. So I think it could be a good way to spread such information also more widely.
Yeah, because again, it comes back to the type of tractor, the amount of consumption of that tractor. So there's a lot of
Yes.
fine detail that you need. But coming back to what you've mentioned, your serious game, and I think we can take a few minutes to talk about that, because again, as an academic, we have to have an objective of disseminating our results. And you even mentioned that for you, the opportunity by working locally with local stakeholders is also to show them that if you improve this practice, or if you modify this practice, that be careful, it maybe will have a positive feedback loop where it will increase maybe the toxicity here while it decreases the environmental impact here. Can you tell us a little bit about your serious game? I think everyone understands board games, and I know your game works almost like a board game. Can you tell us how the development of this board game, how it has been extremely successful to convince, as you have mentioned, other technicians to better advise local growers, to work specifically with local growers? Because again, we all are aware that we have local growers who produce wine in specific context. So we also want to be mindful about the quality of the grapes, the typicity of that wine. So by changing the practice, the focus is not just the environmental impact, but also maintaining or sustaining wine quality. And I think for the people who are here, you also come from a background where your father and your brother currently, they're also working in the sector. So you've always been very sensitive to understanding the local stakeholders, their needs. A little bit about this board game, the development of its objective, and how it specifically worked to convince or help the transition towards more eco-friendly or ecosystems, as you've mentioned.
Okay, so the process of building the game has been a long process. First, it was in a research project that we were conducting, sorry, with also extension officers and their groups of growers, that we wanted to test whether we could put in the hands of the wine growers the LCA results, and how we could transmit them and use them for making the wine growers more aware of their impacts and more aware about the levers they had to improve their environmental impact, or to decrease their environmental impact. Sorry. So it was the subject of a PhD thesis of Anthony Rouault, and for these workshops with the wine growers, he started to build some tools for facilitation. And little by little, this looked more and more like a serious game. So after this work, we considered that it would be very interesting that it wouldn't stay at the stage of only one shot, one research project, but this could be really interesting to propose it as a standing game box that some technicians could use, some teachers also could use with the students. I can show you
Yeah, I
a
don't know
picture
if
of
we
it.
can.
If
So
you,
maybe we can share your screen, but
I can share the screen if you want to see it. Yes. I don't know if you see.
it's coming. It's starting to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Okay, so that's maybe easier
Mm.
to visualize what it looks like. So it's a board game, and we have one card for each operation in the vineyard. And the group of players, from 4 to 8 players. If it's wine growers, it's better that it's 6 players. For students, we can go up to 8. Then they have to build collectively from a real case, and they have all information about what the wine grower had made in a real situation. We give them the environmental impacts and we comment them. And then they have to build a new year of management of the vineyard. They have the rain, they have the disease pressures, and then they have to build this. And when they have built it, we can calculate again the impacts, and then we can discuss with them what were the improvements, or what were the best levers the ones they used, and so on. And in the game, there are also some leaflets giving them more information about the possible levers, about the ecotoxicity potential of the active substances, as you can see here, the small tables. Yeah, so it's quite complete, and we have made already a lot of uh, game plays with students, a lot with the students. It works very well with students, but also with wine growers, and also with stakeholders at the level of AOC in Cognac. That could also a good help to make the stakeholders think about conduct a future thinking, future-oriented thinking about the evolution of the practices in their appellation.
Yeah, I think students are a little bit more naive, so everything is possible. They're a little bit more innovative, where often growers see firstly the constraints, both from an economic or maybe a practical perspective. But yeah, very interesting toolbox, because it allows you to understand in the perspective of the grower, what are the practices that they require to fight against, let's say, humidity, rainfall, to protect the vineyard against diseases. And then as they compare different itineraries or viticultural pathways, if we can say it like that, they can also see by attaining the same level of quality and the same level of production, here and there they can make some adjustments to also improve the environmental footprint of their practices. And again, it comes back to creating sensitivity in the industry, allowing them to understand the impact of their practices, and through this, obviously, it gives them a better awareness of their contribution to the environment. And so this opens the question also about sustainability. There's so many different sustainability schemes today, and obviously they are sometimes a top-down approach from a government perspective or maybe a market perspective. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself as an OIV expert and how you can contribute maybe from a more national level to see changes happening at a much quicker rate? What are the challenges that you see? How can policy be a government policy be you use the word lever, but be a stepping stone to see these changes taking place? Can you tell me a little bit more about the challenges from a policy or national level?
Well, I think we conducted a common work with some colleagues who are sociologists and economists about what are the levers and of practice change for the wine growers, and they could put in evidence or show that there is one economic question about costs of the practice change, and that the wine growers sometimes they are reluctant to change some equipment or to switch to, for example, to stop herbicides, and then they have a lot more work to do with the tractor and so on. So, or if they want to change for electric tractors, for example, that it's a new investment, or for tunnel sprayer, that are possible levers to decrease the impacts. Then there is a question of investment and of money. So this. I think in terms of policy, that can be a need of helping the wine growers to be able to invest more in such solutions. But also, I think it's important to also show them that all the levers are not costing so much money. So there are some levers they can activate that are not so expensive, and that they can implement quite simply. So maybe in the policies could be also important to develop more information of the wine growers, and make them more aware of what they are able to do, um, and what is efficient as levers on the environmental on the decrease of the environmental impacts.
Okay. And Christel, what maybe just to come back to your comment previously, what will be solutions that are cost efficient, that doesn't require too much investment, that growers can already adopt today, that is quite accessible for them if they're only a grape producer at a cooperative until maybe the more premium wine producers?
For example, I said that the use of gasol is really an important part of the impacts, an important driver. So reducing the gasol consumption can be done, for example, by eco-driving, by uh, thinking about decreasing the intensity of the operations. Sometimes the frequency of some operations are a bit too high. It's not necessary to come so often to mow the grass, or not so often to cut the canopy of the vineyard. So there are some small levers like that, but it can really help decreasing. Then the choice of the active ingredients. They are. It's not always the most expensive that are the less harmful. So so yes. Then. About the use of tunnel sprayer, for example, usually the wine growers, they think, yes, it's very expensive to buy a tunnel sprayer and so on. But when you make a calculation on with the amortizement of heat in comparison with a traditional one, uh, it's not really, it doesn't make a big difference in terms of costs. So this has to be more explained, I think, and more understood by the wine growers.
Yeah. As you said, we come back to that frequency you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not to separate what's conventional, what's organic, or maybe biodynamics, but thinking about the number of passages we have in the vineyard and how we can be more eco-responsible, as you've mentioned, looking at the frequency of our treatments. Moving a little bit to the final part of our talk, what are the perspectives that you have for the near future in terms of advancing our understanding of understanding the impact of environmental assessments, life cycle analysis? What do you hope to see in terms of research advancements that we can still conduct, where we still have I know that we are looking now more specifically to the cellar and the life cycle analysis of winemaking. But what are the different advancements that you hopefully would like to see in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think if to improve the assessment we can do, we would need to improve the assessment of pesticides impacts, as for now we cannot assess the impacts of degradation substances from the pesticides and their fate. That's not in our hands. But in the hands of a wider scientific community, and we need these advances to us life cycle assessment practitioners be able to assess better the impacts of pesticides. The same for we would need a real solid international consensus on copper ecotoxicity assessment also. What would be interesting?
Sorry to interrupt you, which will be helpful because we can often blame organic farming in an oceanic climate because we can say they have to go several times in the vineyard. So you mentioned the consumption of fuel, and obviously by that analysis we can say they have a strong impact on the environment. But as you say, maybe we are misunderstanding and missing a lot of information on pesticides and chemicals, and this will give us a better understanding about the broader impact on the environment to also have a discussion regarding organic and conventional farming that's much scientifically better understood.
Yeah, and you mentioned the load of organic farming due to fuel consumption, but it's true that a very powerful lever about this question of fuel consumption is the change of energy. We see on the results of life cycle assessment that when we switch to electric energy, even if we take into account all the battery manufacturing and so on, and recycling, and the electric tractors are really less impacting than the traditional ones. Well, this is true in France because we have a really low carbon energy, electricity. This wouldn't be so. I think it wouldn't be so efficient in other countries with electricity produced from fossil fuels, of course.
Yes.
Yes, so I think that can be a way for them, for organic producers, to decrease their impact. Then after I think, but that's not only for organic farmers. we really need that the science can find some less competitive grass varieties to be able to decrease soil tillage and reduce the need of tillage and be able to leave grass in the whole vineyard. But
I just translate because tillage, well, the soil tillage,
sorry. Tillage.
tillage, but definitely, and obviously, if you think about the competition of grasses as a cover cropping, that also adds organic matter, and we can say at the same time the arrival of hybrid varieties that are extremely qualitative from an enology perspective. These are solutions that immediately gives us very good options in the context of mitigation.
Sure.
And so, Christel, maybe a final question that I asked to Stefano, and hopefully we'll ask to all the other scientists that will join us in the next talks. What will be for you a perfect vineyard? If you think about designing a vineyard that has the lowest environmental impact, obviously there's a context associated with that. So in your case, it's maybe Chenin in Anjou on the schist soil of what we have here. But what will be for you a vineyard that will be imagined in a low environmental impact scenario?
Well, I think I didn't mention that before, but I mentioned the eco-design of annual pathway of technical operations, but to decrease efficiently the impacts of the vineyard, it has really to be thought at the plantation. So then I think the vineyards has to be designed to be slow vineyard, like we think slow food, with the lowest intensity of human intervention possible. So needing the fewest irrigation possible. So with
less fertilization, what you also
less
mentioned.
fertilization,
Do we
if
trellis?
possible, grass with low competitive grass, as I mentioned before, with if possible, grass with local species to be better for biodiversity, and possibly using intelligently the association with trees and animals to reduce to a minimum the necessary human interventions. But for that, we still need to better know the interactions between trees and vineyards, and all what brings the animals in the vineyards to be able to monitor all this in the best harmonious way.
Yeah, the interaction between these different factors.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Christel. I don't know if there's
With
any
pleasure.
specific questions that was in the chat room before we conclude. I just look at the question and answers. I don't know if there's anyone that has joined us that would like to ask a question. But in the question and the question section, we don't have any specific questions. So if Marta and Christina agree, we will conclude on this talk then. Thank you very much, Christel. I think what I enjoy talking with you is that we can see you understand very well your area of research. You give very good examples, and you have a broad way of explaining the different impacts, understanding the challenges. So thank you very much for giving us 45 minutes into your expertise. That's over 20 years in this field. I hope that everyone has enjoyed the talk. I know that you are very accessible in terms of being contacted by email. Christel's email will be c.renaud at group with an e slash in the middle, esa.com. But don't hesitate to contact the Porter Protocol, Marta and Christina, to get an email address if it was not clear. Thank you very much, Christel. I think you have given us a lot of things that we can think about. What I like about your results and your findings is also it's helpful for any grower, from those that are just bringing grapes to the cooperative, to the best premium producers. And there's no discussion here about who's organic, who's conventional. It's something that's extremely applicable in every context all over the world. And yes, there will be challenges for some a little bit more than for others. But again, thank you very much for sharing your expertise.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Marta, your microphone.
Sorry, this is not working today. Yeah. It would be very interesting to learn more about that game of yours. We were extremely curious and love to know how it works and how it's how can it be played, or where can it be played. So that would be really interesting. As always, thank you very much also, Etienne, for bringing that bridge between science and wine production. We will be back next week. We continue with a series of talks that we've been doing on everything water in wine. Next week, we'll be looking at how different wine regions have or are building collective response to water issues, may it be from a scarcity or abundance standpoint. We will have as guests Edwin Macy from the New Zealand Wine Growers, João Barroso from the Sustainability Certification in the Alentejo region, and Etienne, and I don't know how to spell, and Etienne, not this Etienne Neethling, but Etienne
Terblanche
from South African, from VinPro, that will give us the South African vision. So we hope to count on you.
Yeah, I'm just quick. Yeah, I think Marta, it's definitely something that joined this discussion about the carbon footprint, because some regions will have a greater advantage to talk about the carbon footprint, and other regions will maybe have a greater challenge talking about their water footprint. So yeah, your talk next week will definitely align with a lot of things that Christel has mentioned today. Yes. And again, that's where the life cycle analysis is such a powerful tool to look at all the different feedbacks between the different practices. Christel, we have one question for you in, I don't know where the person is from. Her first name is Lydia. She's asking, so regenerative agricultural, does it fit your definition of a slow vineyard thinking?
Well, I don't have all the details about all the practices that are considered in regenerative agriculture, but I guess yes, it should be quite consistent. But yes, we have to check maybe if it doesn't cause a lot of operations. But I think this idea of disturbing less the soil, trying to preserve and consider biodiversity, if I well understood regenerative agriculture, I think it's a good way.
Okay, thank you, Christel. And yeah, thank you, Marta. I just wanted to complete it. I saw Christina.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Christel. We must say that this conversation went in a direction when you started speaking about a life cycle assessment in such a broad fashion. We didn't expect the conversation to go that way, so it was really interesting. And by the way, we will have another talk on water footprint also in the next few weeks with Kees van Leeuwen and other guests, of course, because that's something that we really want to focus on as an organization, not only in terms of in calculation of carbon footprint, but also of water footprint. But without further ado, thank you, Etienne and Christel, for being with us today, and have a nice day. Thank you, everyone on the other side of the screen as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.